He told me he wasn't sure about us after 8 years together, so I took him at his word, canceled our lease, packed my stuff, and left him wondering how the bills were going to get paid without me. Daniel and I met during our junior year at the University of Washington in Seattle. Both English majors, we often found ourselves in the same classes, debating literature and sharing our aspirations of becoming published authors. Our connection was immediate, and before long, we were inseparable. Late-night study sessions at Sazalo Library turned into coffee dates at Café Allegro in the University District. By the time graduation rolled around, we had been dating for 2 years and decided to take the next step, moving in together. We found a charming one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, a neighborhood known for its vibrant art scene and historic charm. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old brick building on East Pine Street, just a few blocks from Volunteer Park. The hardwood floors creaked with character, and the large windows offered a view of the bustling street below. Rent wasn't cheap, but we managed. I secured a job as an editorial assistant at a publishing house downtown, while Daniel opted to freelance, focusing on his writing. Our routine settled into a comfortable rhythm. Mornings began with coffee from the local shop on Broadway, followed by me heading to the office and Daniel retreating to his makeshift workspace in our apartment. Evenings were spent cooking together, discussing our days, and occasionally attending readings at Elliott Bay Book Company. Weekends meant exploring the neighborhood, from browsing records at Everyday Music to enjoying performances at the Egyptian Theater. Financially, things were tight but manageable. My salary covered most of our expenses, rent, utilities, groceries, while Daniel contributed when he could. I believed in his talent and was confident that his big break was just around the corner. After all, isn't that what partners do? Support each other's dreams? Years passed, and while our love remained, subtle changes began to emerge. Daniel became more withdrawn, often lost in thought, and less present during our conversations. He'd spend hours at cafes like Victrola Coffee Roasters, typing away, but producing little to show for it. Our once lively discussions about literature and future plans dwindled, replaced by silence or surface-level chatter. I attributed his behavior to the pressures of freelancing and the elusive nature of creative inspiration. I encouraged him to consider part-time work to alleviate some financial strain, but he dismissed the idea, insisting that he needed to focus solely on his writing. One evening, after a particularly quiet dinner, I decided to address the growing distance between us. "Daniel," I began, setting down my fork, "I've noticed you've been distant lately. Is everything okay?" He looked up from his plate, hesitation flickering across his face. "I'm not sure, Sarah. I feel stuck. Like I'm not moving forward." I reached for his hand. "We can figure it out together. Maybe setting some goals or seeking feedback on your work could help." He pulled his hand away gently, sighing. "It's not just about the writing. It's us. I don't know if we're on the right path." His words felt like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean? We've been together for 8 years. We've built a life here." "I know," he said, avoiding my gaze. "But I need space to figure things out." The weight of his statement hung in the air. I nodded slowly, trying to process the implications. "If space is what you need, I understand." That night, sleep eluded me. Memories of our years together played on a loop in my mind, the laughter, the dreams, the promises. By morning, a decision crystallized. If Daniel was uncertain about us, I wouldn't linger in limbo. While he was out, presumably at one of his usual writing spots like Bauhaus Books and Coffee, I took action. I contacted our landlord, Mrs. Nguyen, and informed her that we'd be vacating the apartment by the end of the month. She expressed surprise but accepted the notice. Next, I began packing my belongings, starting with personal items and gradually moving to shared possessions. When Daniel returned that evening, he was met with the sight of boxes stacked in the living room. "What's going on?" he asked, confusion evident in his voice. "You mentioned needing space," I replied calmly. "I'm giving it to you. I've canceled our lease and will be moving out by month's end." He stared at me, processing the information. "But what about the rent? The bills?" "I've settled my share. The rest is up to you." Over the next few weeks, I secured a studio apartment in Belltown, a neighborhood closer to my office and known for its artistic community. The move was bittersweet. Leaving behind the memories of Capitol Hill was painful, but the prospect of a fresh start was invigorating. Daniel reached out a few times, expressing regret and a desire to talk. I declined, needing time to heal and rediscover myself. Through mutual friends, I learned that he struggled to keep up with the apartment expenses and eventually moved back to Portland to stay with his parents. Reflecting on the experience, I realized the importance of self-worth and not waiting for someone else to determine my value. Life is too short to remain in uncertainty. Moving forward, I embraced new opportunities, deepened friendships, and found solace in the vibrant energy of Belltown. The journey wasn't easy, but it was necessary for my growth and happiness. A month after I moved out, I finally started sleeping through the night again. My new place in Belltown was small, but it was mine. Quiet. Clean. No more waiting for someone to come home late with half-truths and empty eyes. I started picking up extra freelance work on the side, not because I needed the money that badly, but because staying busy helped the silence feel less heavy. One Thursday afternoon, I got a call from our old landlord, Mrs. Nguyen. I almost didn't answer, assuming it was about forwarding mail. But something in my gut told me to pick up. "Sarah, hi. I'm sorry to call you like this," she began, her voice tight. "It's okay. What's going on?" "I'm calling because, well, Daniel left the apartment last week. Didn't give notice. The place is a mess. And there's 2 months rent unpaid." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean he left?" "He said he was moving to LA. Some job opportunity. But he didn't pay rent for March or April. I tried calling him, but he's not picking up." My throat went dry. LA? Daniel never once mentioned LA in the 8 years we were together. "I'm really sorry, Mrs. Nguyen. I moved out over a month ago. I canceled the lease. I have emails from you confirming it." Yes. I remember. I'm not blaming you. I just thought you should know." After I hung up, I sat there in my studio staring at the wall. I felt sick. This wasn't just about unpaid rent or a surprise move. This was something deeper. Something he never told me. I opened my laptop, typed his name into Facebook. We hadn't unfriended each other, but I hadn't checked his page since the breakup. His profile picture had changed. He was standing in front of a mural, sunglasses on, arm around a woman I'd never seen before. She was tall, blonde, wearing a red sundress, her hand resting lightly on his chest. The caption, "Fresh starts. Fresh air." The post was 5 days old. Comments full of fire emojis and power couple tags. My blood ran cold. I clicked on her profile. Her name was Riley, a fashion photographer based in LA. According to her page, she'd done shoots for small indie brands and even a few magazine spreads. She had hundreds of photos. Many of Daniel, including one dated 3 months ago, long before he told me he needed space. I stared at the date. 3 months ago was when he started disappearing for hours, claiming he needed to walk and clear his head. I had asked him one night if he was seeing someone. He swore on everything that he wasn't. He said I was paranoid, tired, overworked. Turns out I wasn't paranoid at all. I was right. I don't even remember closing my laptop. My body just moved. I went straight to the bathroom and threw up. Not from heartbreak. From rage. Pure, white-hot, unforgiving rage. I had been footing the bills, carrying the weight, believing in him, while he played starving artist here and lived a double life in another city. And the worst part? He wasn't even sorry. Not once had he come clean. Not when I moved out. Not when he watched me pack my life into boxes. Not when he texted me, "I just need time to think." I didn't reply to him that night. Or the next. But I did something else. I opened a new email and wrote to one of the editors I knew at Seattle Weekly. I had turned down writing gigs for years because I was too busy, too loyal, too tired. But now I had a story. Not about him exactly, but about what happens when you build your life around someone who doesn't deserve it. The piece was called "I Paid His Rent While He Photographed His New Life." It wasn't revenge. It was therapy. I wrote it in one sitting. Raw, honest, real. The editor loved it. Published it anonymously a week later. It blew up. I started getting emails. Messages from strangers. Other women. Other men. People who had done everything right and still ended up abandoned, cheated on, forgotten. I wasn't alone. That realization changed everything. Then, one night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered, expecting a spam call. "Sarah." His voice. Calm. Too calm. It was Daniel. "I read your article," he said. "I know it's about me." I didn't say anything. He continued. "I don't think it was fair. You didn't know everything." I laughed, a bitter sound I didn't recognize. "You're right. I didn't know you were sleeping with someone else while I was paying your rent." Enlighten me. She wasn't just someone else. She's someone I met while working on a photojournalism piece. It just happened. I didn't mean to fall in love with her. Fall in love. I repeated. "Daniel, you didn't even have the decency to tell me you were done. You left me unpacking memories while you were out there creating new ones." There was silence on the line. Then, he said something that made my blood freeze. "She's pregnant." The world tilted. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there stunned. He had moved on. Fast. Too fast. "And now this?" "I thought you should know," he added, almost like he was doing me a favor. I ended the call without another word. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a weekend trip alone. Just me. No plan. No one to please. I needed to breathe. But I could feel it deep down. This wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. The trip I booked was to San Juan Island. I hadn't been there since I was a teenager, and I remembered it being quiet, calm, the kind of place where the ocean hushes your thoughts and makes room for new ones. I needed that. I needed a full reset. When I arrived, it was overcast, gray skies hanging low over the harbor, but the air smelled like salt and cedar. I stayed at a little inn run by a woman named Marcy, who was in her 60s and had a no-nonsense kind of warmth. She asked no questions. Just gave me a room key, pointed toward the hiking trails, and handed me a map with all the local cafes circled. The first 2 days were uneventful, which was exactly what I wanted. I walked, I read, I wrote. I left my phone off. No distractions. Then came Sunday morning. I was eating breakfast alone in a tiny diner in Friday Harbor, scrolling through a notebook where I'd been sketching out ideas for a second essay. The place was mostly empty, until I heard a voice that made my skin go cold. Sarah. I looked up and felt my stomach drop. It was Jenna, Daniel's ex from college. She looked exactly the same. Tall, dark hair pulled into a loose braid, sharp green eyes that used to make me feel like she could see right through me. I hadn't seen her in years. The last time was some awkward art exhibit Daniel dragged me to back in 2017. She barely acknowledged me then. Wow, I thought that was you, she said, walking over. Mind if I sit? I didn't know how to say no, so I nodded. She slid into the booth across from me, coffee cup in hand. This is crazy. What are you doing here? Just needed a break, I said simply. She nodded slowly. I get that. Things have been insane lately. I tried to keep the conversation light. I didn't want to talk about Daniel. Not with her. But then she dropped the first twist. So, I heard from a mutual friend that Daniel's moving back to Seattle. I blinked. What? Yeah. Didn't you know? Riley dumped him. That hit harder than I expected. I leaned back. She dumped him. Yep. Apparently, the baby wasn't his. The words hung in the air like fog. You're joking. She gave me a look. I wish I was. I heard it from Sarah and... You remember her, right? Went to UW with us. She said Riley was seeing another guy the whole time. Daniel found out last week. Moved out. He's been couch surfing in LA. My mind's spun. Everything he told me, how he had fallen in love, how she was pregnant, how he just needed time, was all based on a lie. And worse, he believed it. He left me, lied to me, and then got played harder than he probably thought possible. I sat there stunned. Jenna stirred her coffee like she hadn't just dropped a bomb. Honestly, I'm not surprised, she said. Daniel always thought the world owed him something. She finished her drink and stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. Anyway, good seeing you. You look great, by the way. Way better than you did when you were with him. Then she was gone. I didn't touch the rest of my food. I sat there, trying to piece together how the man I'd spent nearly a decade with could have unraveled so completely in just a few months. I turned my phone back on that night. Sure enough, there were messages. A few from Daniel, one from an unknown number I guessed was Riley, and another from a name I didn't recognize, Nathan. His message was short. Hey Sarah, I know this is random. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Daniel. And Riley. I think you got caught in something way bigger than you realize. I stared at the screen for a long time. Nathan? Who the hell was Nathan? I didn't answer him right away. I Googled his name. Took me a while, but eventually I found him. A photographer. Based in LA. And, no surprise, he had taken multiple pictures of Riley, including one where they were holding hands, and one where she was visibly pregnant. Captioned, baby and due in August. Not Daniel's baby. Nathan's. I felt like someone had just turned the lights on in a very dark room. Riley wasn't just some fling. She had been playing both sides. Maybe even using Daniel to make Nathan jealous. Or as a backup plan. Either way, I had been used too, just in a different way. I was the stability Daniel leaned on while he built castles on sand. And they all came crashing down. That night, I finally replied to Nathan. What do you know? Let's talk. What came next, I wasn't prepared for. Nathan replied almost instantly after I sent that message. Meet me at Victrola Coffee on Pike this Thursday, 6 p.m. I'll explain everything. Come alone. By Thursday, I was a nervous wreck. My hands shook as I sipped water, waiting for him to show. The cafe was mostly quiet, soft jazz playing overhead, the smell of roasted beans comforting, but not enough to calm me. At exactly 6:01, he walked in. Tall. Messy blonde hair. Slight limp. He scanned the room and spotted me. When he sat down, he looked tired. Not just physically. It was the kind of tired that lives in your eyes when you've been hurt more than once and just don't have the energy to fake it anymore. You must be Sarah, he said. I nodded. I'm Nathan. I waited. He took a deep breath. Okay, I'll make it quick. Riley and I have been together on and off for almost 4 years. She's a lot. Intense. Passionate. Manipulative when she wants something. When we broke up last summer, she started seeing Daniel. I think it was mostly to piss me off, if I'm honest. He paused. We got back together around Christmas. She told Daniel it was over, but I don't think she ever really stopped talking to him. Then, in January, she found out she was pregnant. She told me first. Then told him a week later. Made it sound like she wasn't sure whose it was. That was a lie. I clenched my jaw. So she strung him along, and he left me thinking he was going to be a father? Nathan nodded. I found your article. The one about the rent. I realized he had no idea. She let him believe it, just like she let me believe I was the only one. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw him 2 weeks ago. He was sitting outside a bar in Silver Lake, completely wrecked. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. I sat down and told him the truth. All of it. My chest felt tight. And? He didn't believe me. Said I was trying to manipulate him. Called me jealous. I told him to talk to Riley. She admitted it the next day. Silence fell between us. Then he added, he told me he was going back to Seattle to talk to you. I stared. Why? What for? He said he never stopped loving you. That he messed up. That you were the only person who ever believed in him. I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. I didn't hear from Daniel for another 3 days. Then he showed up. Unannounced. On a Sunday afternoon. Knocked on my door like nothing happened. When I opened it, he looked hollow. A shell. Thin, pale, with shadows under his eyes. I stood there, not moving. Sarah, I need to talk to you. I didn't invite him in. I just leaned against the frame. You have 30 seconds. He nodded slowly. Riley lied. The baby's not mine. She never loved me. She used me. Nathan told me everything. I didn't believe him until she admitted it. I was stupid. So stupid. I folded my arms. You lied too. You used me, Daniel. You knew you weren't contributing, and I still supported you. I trusted you. And you gave that trust to someone else without even telling me. His voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to happen like that. I thought we were fading. I didn't know how to fix it. I was scared. I laughed bitterly. So you ran to someone else. He didn't deny it. I came here because I'm sorry, he said. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed to say it to your face. I lost everything. But losing you, that's what ruined me. Then he broke. Just like that. On my doorstep. Tears. Full-on collapse. The neighbors across the hall peeked out. I could feel the weight of their stares. I didn't hug him. I didn't comfort him. I let him cry. Because I had cried too. For weeks. Alone. When he finally stood up, he wiped his face and looked at me one last time. If there's ever a way to fix it, I'll spend the rest of my life trying. And then he walked away. In the aftermath, people had opinions. My best friend, Tasha, said I should have slammed the door in his face. My coworker Dana said he got what was coming. My mom said, sometimes men have to fall hard to learn anything at all. Me? I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel happy. I felt numb. I kept living. I wrote more. I submitted essays. I took longer walks. I read poetry again. I even laughed. Some nights were still hard, but I no longer looked at my phone waiting for him to text. Weeks passed. Then months. He emailed once. Told me he'd started working at a community college teaching creative writing. Said he hadn't picked up a camera since LA. Said he still thought about me every day. I never replied. It's been a year now. I live in a new place. Still in Seattle. Still me. When I think about Daniel, it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels like an old book I once read. Beautiful. Tragic. And over. I've learned that loving someone deeply doesn't mean you owe them forever. I've learned that silence, too, is an answer. And that sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's clarity. I'm not sure if he ever found peace. But I did. And maybe that's all that matters.